So we've had some really fun conversations about third parties. We've had some conversations about green entering. So I'm going to throw it to you first to kind of lay the base here, because you kind of lay this out better than anybody I know. Because, I mean, obviously it's the project you've taken under your wing. Why do we need a third party? Why should we go straight up third party instead of Dem entering?
Yeah, that's the big question. You know, I think that when you think about how is it that change can happen, one of the lessons that I took away from I worked on the Bernie campaign. I'm sure most people know this, but I worked on the Bernie campaign as national political outreach coordinator in that capacity. It was my job to lobby superdelegates for Bernie, and also to set up meetings with elected officials and to help plan the convention towards the end. And then that led me to Our Revolution, which I helped found and was the first electoral manager, where I helped put together the slate of candidates and a plan to support them. And so both of those experiences, along with a decade earlier in politics, working for people like Terry McAuliffe and on John Kerry's PAC, taught me that in order to that the Democratic Party is essentially not democratic enough internally to be able to take it over. And so it's kind of like talking about taking over Walmart. I mean, you know, you could have 80%, 90%, 100% of the employees of Walmart who wanted a different leadership on the board, you know, who wanted a different CEO, who wanted a different ratio of CEO to worker pay, who wanted the company to have different practices environmentally, and it wouldn't matter because it's not a democratic structure. And the Democratic Party is the same thing. It's insufficiently internally democratic to be taken over. That was one of the primary lessons that I took, and you see this everywhere. You know, and so you see it from the superdelegates, who are the ones who pick the presidential nominees. They have 30% of the vote that is required to pick towards victory for a presidential nominee. And so you get this ridiculous dynamic where a whole bunch of votes are essentially cast before the candidate has even been, before a single person has cast a vote. And every single one of them, the superdelegates, has about 10,000 votes. But you see it in many, many other places too. And so the way that the leadership is elected, DNC chair Tom Perez, the membership had no say in in what direction the party was going to go in last year when they elected a new chair.
There's a reform commission, and now they're only going to cheat a little bit.
No, well, I'm so glad
they're willing to come down on the number of super delegates, so they're only going to cheat some.
Right.
That unity, isn't that great?
Well, and the hilarious part about this is that the Republicans did away with super delegates, so it's so undemocratic that now, I mean, super delegates are party bosses essentially, you know, picking the candidates, and so the Democratic primary is less democratic than the Republican primary. And, you know, even if all of the Unity Reform Commission's recommendations went through, which we already know that they're not going to, but I can get to that in a sec. But even if they did, it would still be more undemocratic than the Republican Party. And they would still be able to essentially anoint candidates beforehand. And obviously the Unity Reform Commission recommendations did absolutely nothing wrong about challenging the heart of the problem, and the heart is the money in politics. And so this is exemplified by the Unity Reform Commission, the Rules and Bylaws Committee, and then the DNC, the makeup of the DNC as well. And so all of those bodies are bodies of committees of corporate lobbyists, of consultants, of neoliberals, and of people who directly participated in rigging the 2016 primary. And so how illegitimate of a process is it that committees of those people are now supposedly allowed to determine whether the political revolution gets to continue inside the Democratic Party. I mean, that is completely illegitimate, and progressives should not accept that whatsoever. And now what they're doing now, Ron, is that they've, on the Rules and Bylaws Committee, and there was almost no coverage of this. There was a ton of coverage when the Unity Reform Commission put out its recommendations to begin with, of reducing superdelegates and having allowing people to sign up same-day registration as well, and then having a committee, having an ombudsman who would make sure that the party just stays accountable to its own charter and isn't partial towards a particular presidential candidate in its primaries. And then also more financial transparency. And so now in the Rules and Bylaws Committee meeting that is supposed to evaluate the Unity Reform Commission meetings, and all of this is intended to be, complicated, obviously, to obfuscate it. But what the Rules and Bylaws Committee did is that they struck down financial transparency. They said, no, we're not going to do that. We're not going to allow even the DNC to have control over the spending because right now it's just one person, the chairman, who has, financial power inside the party. And we're also not going to create an ombudsman position to ensure that we are accountable to our own bylaws that mandate impartiality for candidates. And so the only reasons that you wouldn't do things like that, and that is rock bottom as an expectation. Stick to your bylaws, rock bottom. And the only reason they wouldn't do something like that is they have full intention of reserving the right, being able to rig the primary again in 2020. This just clearly advertised now.
Oh no, I'm with you, and I like Constance. I applaud her for doing the work, but I feel like you're pushing a boulder up a hill, and there's people pushing the boulder back down at you, and those people are the Democratic establishment. Now here, one of the things I'm trying to get away from, I'm trying not to use the term neoliberal as often anymore. I'm trying to get away from it. Here at the show, we've come up with a few things. Marcus has come up with cappuccino conservatives. We like that one. And that was also, and then I came up with Starbucks conservative first, but he took it a step further, I think. Also, I like to use conservatives in denial because, neoliberal, even though we know that neoliberal refers to the liberalization of markets, it has nothing to do with liberal in the contemporary American sense. Sometimes a lot of people don't realize that. And nothing makes these so quote unquote liberals angrier than when you actually call them conservatives. So I like conservative in denial, cappuccino conservatives, Starbucks conservatives. I'm really working on that. I wanted to catch on. Feel free to run with it yourself.
That's great. Cappuccino conservatives.
Like it? Yeah. Shout out to Marcus. I got to give him credit or he gets mad.
I mean, heck, all the Democrats today are Republicans.
Exactly. Hey guys, thanks for watching. That was a clip from Get Your News On with Ron, the world's first viewer-curated streaming news show. What does that mean? That means I log on to a stream and people tweet me articles over on Twitter at Ron Placone, or they use our Reddit subsection, which is just Get Your News On with Ron over on Reddit. And that's how we build the show. I'm seeing all these articles for the first time. We are literally getting our news on together. Follow me on Twitter at Ron Placone so you can participate. And this show streams live every Tuesday through Friday at 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, so please do tune in. If you want to support this show, you can do so over on patreon.com/Ron Placone, where for as low as $1 a month, you get access to exclusive podcasts every week, exclusive videos, free tickets to shows when I'm performing in your town, and more for as low as $1 a month. Please do consider it. Thank you so much for your support. This has been Get Your News On with Ron.